has said. Take a look at what happened.
We begin tonight with the latest developments one day after an assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump during an outdoor rally in western Pennsylvania. Authorities say the suspected shooter is dead. One rally attendee was killed and 2 other people were hurt. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brad Broders. Here's what we know this hour. President Biden and U.S. Attorney Merrick Garland ordered a full investigation into what happened, with the FBI and ATF assisting. Investigators say the suspected shooter, a 20-year-old, had no known ideology, and that man's family is cooperating with authorities. Police say a 50-year-old firefighter, Corey Compitor, died in that shooting Saturday. We also know that 2 people hurt Saturday are expected to recover. That attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump is putting on an alert in the town of Butler. Scott Schaefer explains the steps officials are taking to get to the bottom of what happened.
Authorities, local, state, and federal, spent the night at the Butler County Farm Show grounds combing for evidence. By morning, as media from around the world converged on western Pennsylvania, it was clear the cops were searching rooftops along the perimeter of the grounds. Soon after sunrise, they announced that a firearm had been discovered. The weapon was allegedly used in an assassination attempt on former President Trump Saturday evening. The former president was only slightly injured, but 1 spectator was killed and 2 others seriously wounded. Trump, after receiving medical attention, arrived home at his country club in New Jersey overnight. Investigators confirming to ABC News they believe this screenshot shows the suspect receiving his diploma and is part of their probe. We spoke to a volunteer from the Trump campaign. He wasn't allowed to talk to us on camera, but he told us that he has done a number of these rallies, and what struck him as weird about Saturday is that there were no heavy construction machines, vehicles lined up around the perimeter of the rally site. That, he says, is usual. This time, he says, he could see people lined up right outside the fence. The young man, Thomas Crooks, lived in Bethel Park, a suburb of Pittsburgh, about an hour from the shooting scene. Crooks was shot and killed at the farm show grounds. By morning, authorities had descended on the neighborhood of Thomas Crooks, reportedly evacuating the homes of several neighbors. For people in this quiet suburb, the sudden national attention was a lot to digest.
Just a great bunch of people. It's sad. You know, it's sad for the United States. It's sad for this whole entire. It's just sad.
It's a very detrimental thing for the community. I mean, most of us here support Trump, so it was very scary to know that that was from here.
Crooks was a 2022 graduate of Bethel Park School District. In a statement, the district expresses condolences to the victim who was killed and extends, quote, its sincere wishes for a speedy but full recovery for Mr. Trump, unquote. Scott Schaefer.
As the Republican National Convention is set to kick off this week, Midsouth delegates we spoke with shared their expectations this week in wake of the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. Our Desmond Nugent has been making calls to lawmakers from our area all day. Desmond, one of the members of the Shelby County Republican Party is in Milwaukee. What did they say the atmosphere is like after Saturday's shooting?
Yes, Brad. Patricia Boswell, what is on the executive board of the Shelby County Republican Party, she says there's still excitement about the convention despite what happened at the rally yesterday. Patricia's husband, Bob, is a delegate. She says they're more than ready to do the work necessary to get former President Trump back in the White House. She told me they were just as shocked as everyone else watching the shooting unfold. Patricia says her heart does go out not only to the Trump family and the victims, but also the shooter's family. She says this nation needs to be more mindful of their words and stop the violence that's plaguing our country.
I think self-discipline is not being focused on in our children today. And as a result, we have adults that don't seem to have a great self-control. And we need to get back to those fundamentals.
I spoke with one Tennessee delegate who brought Trump back to Millington when he was the then presidential candidate in 2016. Tonight at 10, he'll share why they're more than motivated to do the work necessary to get former President Trump back in office. Brad?
Thanks a lot, Desmond. What happened to former President Donald Trump is rare, but not unprecedented. Saturday, the former president joined the unfortunate list of presidential candidates injured in assassination attempts. The most recent attempt on a presidential candidate or president was Republican President Ronald Reagan in 1981. John Hinckley Jr. shot Reagan just 2 months after he took office. ABC 24 political analyst Otis Sanford reflected on that incident and how the country reacted.
Ronald Reagan was considered to be a pretty decent man. And so after he was shot, actually the bullet that hit him was a ricochet from the shooter. He mended very well. And the country rallied around him because even though a lot of people didn't like his politics, they saw him as that decent human being.
And President Reagan suffered serious injuries, including a punctured lung, broken rib, and internal bleeding, but survived and went on to be reelected to a second term in 1984. Tonight, reaction and bipartisan support continues to come in from Midsouth lawmakers and former presidents following Saturday's assassination attempt of former President Trump. Memphis Mayor Paul Young said in part, "We simply cannot ignore the harmful effects of gun-related violence in our country. Violent rhetoric and acts have no place in the political arena." U.S. Representative Steve Cohen of Memphis posted in part on X, "Violence has no place in political arena or America. It's antithetical to our political system." Former President Barack Obama said in part, "We should all be relieved that former President Trump wasn't seriously hurt."